Check out this clip from Neighborly Discourse with Billy and Steve.
They're trying to. They want to get rid of voter ID because they want to get people to be able to vote without an ID. So they call it racist. They do all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The goal is if you have an ID, you need a ID to get a state residency. You need a state residency to have an ID. You need these two things to vote.
Right.
So you call voting ID racist to wipe away requiring an ID. So that way anyone can vote, no questions asked. Mm-hmm. Does that sound familiar?
It does sound familiar.
That topic, that
right. But you had you showed how. Right. Okay, go ahead.
So does that metaphor sound familiar to you? Erasing one thing to allow something else to happen. What does it sound like?
Oh, erasing one thing to
erasing something that's been the norm. Because they want something else to happen. So they're saying these don't exist anymore. ID doesn't exist anymore.
It sounds like how, for example, the statues, pulling down statues, like our history.
Something we've talked about very recently.
Just recently. No, that doesn't jump out at me, so give it to me.
All right. You're saying you're getting rid of gender to allow people to get married.
Right.
So this is a topic you've railed on 3 weeks in a row, and I thought I set up a nice analogy, and you didn't get it.
I didn't get it. I'm sorry, dude.
You know,
sorry.
I wanted you to get that. Because what I did was I brought my flag.
Okay,
it's got to go over here now, because though I don't agree with your overall premise, it is the same idea of voting. You need a residency to get an ID. You need an ID to get a residency. You can't have illegal aliens vote, so let's get rid of it altogether. You can't have a man marry a man. That's not against the law. A woman marrying a woman is against the law. Well, how do we get rid of that? Well, there's no more genders. So now anything can fly.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
So that argument I understand. Because I heard the one episode yesterday. I was like, again, I'm not with Steve. They did not do this to set out to changing of the genders. And that's not what it's about. It's not about the actual physical changing of the genders.
But listen, we got to that point at the end, right?
Well, no, it's not surgically changing of the genders. It is the idea of changing gender, saying they don't exist. So you can't say a man and a woman or a man and a man can't get married anymore. There's no gender, so anything flies.
Right, the definition.
Yeah. So I'm thinking to myself, Steve, there's no way these people did this back then to have people surgically change their body now. That's asinine. But it's something to myself, well, I did this on voter fraud. They're getting rid of one thing so it can be a free-for-all for everything else. So I let it go. That was, I think, Wednesday. And then I heard Wednesday's recorded episode this morning, and I'm like, he's after this, man. What the hell is wrong with this guy? And then the more I listen, I'm like, nah, man, that's really it. It's getting rid of the label, so to speak, to have a free-for-all. And it's 100% about with the voting thing. I made the exact same point. You're getting rid of something that's been the norm to allow for a free-for-all. Mm-hmm. So I'm listening. I'm like, that's what this is. It's not about the actual physical changing of the gender. It's saying they don't exist so they can be able to say they did something to help a small amount of people to benefit them, not the small amount of people they're trying to help. Mm-hmm. So I was like, so let me make sure I bring my flag in here because I have to move it. Because I understand what you mean. I was taking it extremely literally.
Dude, I need my flag too, man. I just
grabbed this out of the kitchen before I came in here. And I'm like, man, I got to get this in for Steve season.
This is good. This is good. Oh my goodness.
So I was like, man, this makes sense to me.
I mean, listen, that's great, and I'm glad you brought that up. And man, I'm surprised that I didn't see it because it's true. And look. It all goes back.
I'm listening. That thing is open. And
okay,
can you reach back and knock that closed?
Okay.
All right, thanks.
Cool.
The air's escaping.
Okay, so what was I saying? It all goes back to. I was talking to Jeff about this the other day. We're playing checkers and they're playing chess.
Yeah.
They're so far ahead of us with moves, and they're doing things, and we're not even realizing. Why are you doing this?
Here's why I think we're not realizing it.
Okay.
Could you imagine telling someone
yes.
you're not a man or a woman?
I know.
Who would think about that to have a defense strategy for it?
You're right.
You know what I mean? Like, who would think we're going to let some random person from somewhere else come and vote here?
Yes.
You're not part of our country. The laws are the laws. So that's one thing. Laws are laws. They can be changed, amended, whichever. But physically saying, no, Steve, you're not really a guy. That's just a made-up thing. Mm-hmm. Even though all of human history and biology and everything else says you are, some random person is saying, nah, man, don't worry about that.
I want to go back to the voting thing. I want to go back to immigration for a second.
Yeah.
So I'm glad we're aligned in this, but let's go back to immigration for 1 second. Mm-hmm. the idea that there are people out there who are suffering in their own country and they want a better place to live, right?
Yes.
You would have to be inhumane or very cold or callous to say that doesn't resonate with you. Like you don't feel something for that, right? So the way that the left and the media portrays it, it's so binary. It's like either you're all in, like, you have to have a heart, and if you have a heart, you need to let all these people in, or you're a racist, you're a xenophobe, you hate people. And I think that two things. One, it's not that black and white. It's not that binary. You can feel for these people and still think there needs to be an orderly way of getting them in, of processing them. You can feel both, and you can say that this way that we're doing it right now is not orderly and it needs to stop. All three things can coexist in your mind and be right. You won't have to be schizophrenic to have these three thoughts. But the second thing is, so one, we can you can think these things at the same time, but then two, what's their end game? And we the people, I'm pointing to the sign. I don't even know if it comes on camera, but we the people, because we got a sign up here.
We got that one.
Oh yeah, I see it.
We'll
I see it. We the people.
If it works today.
Yeah, we the people need to stop just taking things in small bites and running with it. And we need to actually process it. And I'll give you an example in a second. But we need to process this and ask the question, what's the end game? What's the big picture here? And so kudos to you.
My thing is, I don't think they have an end game. Like honestly, maybe
who doesn't have an end game?
The left. Because let me ask you this, in all seriousness, do you think, and again, not absolutely, do you think they thought they would get people to buy in to saying that gender, that you're not really a man even though you are?
Billy, I almost called you Jeff. Billy, they have doctors saying
No, I get it.
Doctors.
I understand that. But I'm saying when the idea was first hatched, do you think they thought they'd be able to convince people?
Yes, absolutely. Okay. Absolutely. There's no doubt in my mind.
Like, how could you have an end game when your thoughts are so out of, like, left field is right compared to how left they're coming. You know what I mean? So how, like, there's no end game because we didn't think this was going to take off. But holy crap, these people are gullible. But look what we can do now.
And listen, but again, you said it, you were on the nose when you said it's not about gender. It is absolutely not about gender. If we stay trapped in the idea that they want to mutilate our kids, which they do. Yeah. But if we stay trapped there, they're already gone, man. They're past this. They're someplace else. And it's like, that's why we have to start looking now. So we need to act in a way where what's happening now, is that me or you?
Yeah, it's you.
I'm sorry. What's happening around us now that they're doing, and we need to start thinking in terms of, okay, we see what they're doing now, so I'm not even going to look at now. I'm going to look in the future, because what's happening now is going to change in the future. It's going to be something different. And I think that that's the only way that we can actually change this outcome, is to say, what are they looking at in the future, and and stop worrying about what they're actually doing now.
Yeah. See, I think of this. Maybe I'll make a note to sound the alarm. But I wonder if they kind of need this. Let's say if a company works with a union and they fight against the union all the time. The union fights against the company all the time. If one gets rid of the other, what's the other one's purpose? They can understand the company's purpose is to continue to be a company to make money. But the union then has no, okay, we got rid of the company, what are we going to do? Mm-hmm. They'll find something else to complain about, I guess. Politicians, what are they going to go against if they agree on everything or fix all the problems? Like, the Republicans have nothing to stand on if the liberals are not saying anything crazy, and vice versa.
So let me respond to that on a micro and a macro level. On a micro level, on the smallest level, there's always going to be disagreement. Always. I mean, we're human beings. We're not going to always align.
But is it enough to make waves to get them the attention they're seeking?
Well, okay. See, and that's an answer on a macro level. But let me finish this micro for a second. Because we're going to always have disagreements, and there's going to be this group of people who's going to want X and this group of people who's going to want Y. Yeah. That's how you have representatives who actually go and fight for each cause and, whatever, right? Yeah. So that is That's human nature. That's going to be here with us from. It was at the very beginning, and it's going to be with us to the very end.
Which, again, I totally
and that's
get
fine.
it. Yeah.
But on a macro level, this is what's insidious. This is what's dangerous. On a macro level, it's like I want to be king forever.
Yeah.
I know that sounds super simplistic and it sounds over the top, but I'm telling you, this is what it is. It's I want to be king forever.
Who wants to be king forever?
So,
I grew up when the Republicans were the quote unquote bad guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now looking at it, to me, the left are by far the bad guys.
Mm-hmm.
So the other one says the same thing about the other one because they're trying to reach the top and stay at the top. Right now, it's a little bit of a shift. The crazy left are taking over, and we're railing against them. Now, a while back, again, I was young, so I didn't really know, but the Republicans were, I'm not in charge, but ran all the business. And again, this is all stuff I was told through the news growing up.
Mm-hmm.
They were in charge. They were the ones, shutting people out. And they were doing everything that they say that we're doing now, except for we're not. The liberals are. So the liberals are trying to bring them down from being king. Mm-hmm. Now it's a role reverse. We're trying to pull them down from being king. It just seems like one is always trying to get to the top for permanent power, and the other one is trying to bring them down. I don't think either one of them will get, if they get to the power, will say, okay, here we are at the top of the mountain. Let's divvy it up. Whoever gets there first is going to stay, and the rest of us are going to be screwed.
Okay, so here's the issue.
Though I would rather it be conservative to the top than liberal, though I don't fully agree with some conservative thoughts.
So this is what I was going to tell you, that early on, one of our earlier episodes, we had made this point that we don't agree with everything that the right does.
Yeah.
We have made that very clear, right? And in fact, we even went further and said we need the left and the right.
Yes.
Both ideas, like no one has it perfect, right? But the goal is, the hopes are that together we can, achieve the highest level of perfection that we can achieve, knowing that we're imperfect, right? In fact, think about it. Our Constitution was written by left and right.
Yeah.
And to hear Jeff say it is like it's the greatest document ever written, and
it is.
Short of the Bible, is the greatest document ever written by man. And it's like it took both sides to create this.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't want to,
because they had a common enemy. One wanted something, one wanted something else. Both wanted to get away from England, so they both had a common denominator that held them together. The enemy of the enemy is my friend.
Fair enough. So that was the common denominator that they didn't want to be like.
Yeah.
So they said, how can we create something that's not going to be like that?
They wanted to be this. They wanted to be this. England said, you can't be either one of them. So like, screw this. We're going someplace. Hey, you can do that, and we're going to do this. Let's meet every now and then and make sure we don't get too far to the other side and rein each other in.
Fair enough.
But nowadays, it's about money. It's about power. So they don't care who goes where.
So here we go. We don't want to get rid of the Democratic Party. We're not saying that. We want Democrats. We want to hear their ideas.
We need checks and balances.
Exactly. And we don't want, and we certainly don't want to get rid of the Republican Party, right?
Yeah.
We just want people in power, people that we elect to go out there and represent us, to truly represent us.
Yeah.
And